On the education items, are there any items that need to be separated out? Otherwise, I'd like a motion for items B1 through B9.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Becker and Mrs. Shaw, is there any discussion?
Can we just take a moment to
Sure.
scroll?
Yeah, I just wanted to let anyone know who's watching that this is our first totally paperless meeting, so we're not all being rude in looking down at our screens and doing some personal email or something, but we have the,
I thought you were binge watching a Netflix show.
yes, I was, I really was, I was binging on.
But I want to say congratulations to the board for embracing this new initiative and going paperless.
So that's what we're doing when we're looking at our screens all meeting.
Oh, Mr. McAvoy.
My homework is done on paper.
We could scan that for you, Mr. McAvoy.
As a matter of fact, I had a conversation with Mr. Giuliana about the possibility of being able to look at the documents that we have and then make notes on the sidebar. I was on a website recently, and I see my colleague, Mrs. Chu, is nodding that we've been on these websites where we can take our notes and then it would all be there. I don't mind working off the paper. But anyway, my first question's on B3. I think it really goes to Mr. Giuliana. And this is something that these type of items pop up, especially in the time period after a budget has been created. And so some of these items, let's say there were more than just this one, but this is a $50,000 item that we did not budget for, right, Mr. Giuliano?
Well, in this case, let's see. Yes, we
Right,
are,
it's a
this is
student
for
who is new to the
out-of-district
district.
placement.
Student is new to the district. It needs special,
Typically,
needs.
this is not unusual.
Right.
We see many instances throughout the course of the year where the board is approving additional out-of-district placements. But it is part of the, what I'll call the ebb and flow of addressing student needs. So oftentimes we see where, while we may have additional students going out of district during the course of the year, there may be changes to IEPs that may warrant changes to the programs for students that had been already out of district and maybe are coming back. So while this may be an additional out-of-district placement that may not have been budgeted,
Right.
It's not something that should cause any kind of alarm, and certainly is an obligation.
right, I understand the obligation totally. I just wanted our residents to understand that that this does happen, and I wanted them to understand that this is something where we have to find the money for. I don't want the taxpayer to be educated about this. We go to B4, not prior to, but letter B, number 4. Another one of the ideas that maybe this was not budgeted, and maybe this is something that can be addressed to Mr. Leipold, who is new to the district. We're talking about Windows 7. I didn't even know that we were still using that. And maybe Mr. Leipold can make a comment on,
Absolutely.
is that okay, Dr. Valesky?
Absolutely.
Certainly. Thank you. Yeah, this was training that was worked through with our senior manager of desktop support with New Horizons. It is Windows 7. It's geared specifically to address knowledge gaps that we have with our staff. So even though Windows 7 will eventually be phased out, this training is specifically designed to work with the needs of our staff. They are going to give us a sneak peek of Windows 10 as well. So we're going to be jumping right from Windows 7 to Windows 10 eventually. But it is geared for our specific needs. It's not just a generic training.
Right. And Mr. McAvoy, this was money that was budgeted in the department for training. But I waited deliberately until Mr. Leopold came on board before the final approval for this training. So I wanted him to guide the direction of specifically what this training would be and how we would utilize it.
Thank you. Welcome.
Yeah, welcome, by the way. Thank you.
Continuing on to B8, and that consumed page after page after page in the agenda. Do we have any idea when No Child Left Behind is going to expire?
I just heard the House just voted to renew it
Right. Mrs. Gullit can
by a
address
couple
it.
votes, yeah,
Okay.
like today or yesterday.
Sure.
So it is up for reauthorization. We don't know what that's going to look like. It's been reauthorized as ESEA again, and so we're waiting to see what that looks like. But it basically covers the titles, and we don't see them expiring anytime soon.
So as I went through the document, I think I counted some 114 items. And is, Mr. Juliana, is that $890,908 something that we are receiving, or something that we have to, if we budgeted for it?
The $890,000 is in a variety of programs, Title I, Title II,
Right,
Title
Title
III. And it is a combination of funds that goes to the district for our enrolled students, as well as to non-public schools through which the district acts as the intermediary recipient. These funds, very critical on any of the federal funds, such as the NCLB, same holds true with IDEIA, that these funds cannot supplant, take the place of the local responsibility. The funds are to supplement what we do. We allow for a certain amount of funding to come into our budget. As a matter of fact, in our general fund budget, you would see, for example, in the NCLB situation, under basic skills, there would be a specific item to offset our regular budget in anticipation of having received these funds. The same thing holds true with the IDEA funds, where we apply most of our IDEA funds to out-of-district tuition, and you would see a total for what we anticipate our tuitions to be, and then we strike a reduction to that based on what we expect IDEA to give us.
Is there a verification process for all that money?
That process happens as these applications start to come through. But we are usually on the conservative side, and not so much that we've got, a huge differential, but to ensure that we don't end up with a shortfall.
Right.
Can I follow up?
Well, I just have one more, Mr. Phillips. I'm going to just scroll down to B9. Maybe I can't even scroll to B9, but B9, I made a note of, was that $69,000? Was that budgeted?
Correct. $69,000 in B9. This is the approval of an incoming special education
Right.
student. And this is where the district would be receiving tuition funds, tuition revenue from another school district for servicing that student. We do budget revenue for students coming into district, but this is one instance where we did not know that this student would be coming, and so this is a bonus, if you will, on the revenue side.
Thank you, Dr. Kennedy.
Thank you. While we're on that last topic about the IDEA money, in B7, there's a 62 some odd $1,000 increase expected over the year before. Is that for the fact that there's more students that are listed as in need, or is that an increase on the part of the funding agency?
There could be a combination of the two. That the allocation formula, and all of this is formula-driven. It is not based on, well, we apply for a certain amount and then they make a determination as to how much we receive. It's based on the number of pupils that qualify for this funding, and then there is a dollar amount applied, and it's a simple multiplication factor to take.
So you don't know if the 62,000 is because we have more kids applying this year, or if it's just that they're funding at a higher level?
I would say it's probably both.
Okay.
Both.
Coming
Phil-
back to B8, I could see the breakout of what areas it hits on page 9 of 34. Since our budget's done, these numbers, I'm assuming that you printed out the Department of Education's webpage of analysis. We don't know this until our budget's completed, correct?
That's correct. We'd never have this information in time to basically parallel our budget development process. This information always follows that, but we know, based on our historical experience, what kind of funding we can reasonably expect. And so that's what we base our budget on.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions?
Oh, the key word there being reasonably expected.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Julian.
We're usually given parameters on what to expect, and they're relatively accurate, I would say.
Yes.
I believe we'll take a roll call for it.
Yep. Mrs. Becker?
Yes, except for B5, which I will abstain.
Mrs. Chu?
Yes.
Mrs. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. McAvoy?
Yes.
Mr. Philipchak?
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw?
Yes?
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
And Dr. Cohen?
Yes.
Motion carries.